So I'm here with Luis Torres, a software engineer at Restar. Thanks for coming on, Luis.
Nice to be here.
Hi, man. I want to talk a little bit about as where you grew up and how you got to Japan.
All right. So I grew up in Washington State, over in the good old USA. And I got interested in Japanese language first, actually, before anything else. I took a class back in my senior year of high school. It was a college course, actually. So it was a whole year of like college level, at a college level or whatever, I guess. And from there, I just fell in love with the language. I just really liked it. And I graduated high school and I finished that course or whatever. I did a year at university, and I was studying business at the time, actually. But I didn't really like what they were teaching me in business because it felt very like just very general. It didn't feel like it was anything specific. It wasn't like I could really use it anywhere. So I just decided that I wanted a break, but my parents wouldn't let me take a gap year. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, wow, what can I do to, have a break and think about my future, my career or whatever? And I was just walking by just with my own thoughts, and I found the International Center. I saw that they could study abroad, and I saw Japan on the list. And I was like, well, I do want to improve my Japanese skills, so let's try it out. I applied or whatever. I had like two options. I think it was Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and I decided to go with Nagasaki. No real reason other than it was just one of the two options. And I was the only one from my school actually to go to Nagasaki. Everyone else went to Kyoto or something like that. So that was like a third option, but I missed the deadlines for those. So yeah, I went to Nagasaki. I went there for a whole year. When I got there, the Japanese that I knew, that I learned in my class previously, out of the window. I didn't know how to like say anything anymore. I forgot everything, I swear. But yeah, I studied for a whole year, and then I was able to, I learned more of the language or whatever. Yeah. And then after I came back to the States, I was like, I need to go back. And so I ended up, I chose a career that I could have more flexibility in like remote work, or just it's sought after, even overseas. And computer science was one of the things that was on my list. It was the highest on my list, and things that I felt like, I could do good in. So yeah, I went with that. And then after I went to the school, I finished my computer science degree. I had a 2-year job in a small startup as well. And then I found Restar. And then I came here, and then I went to Japan all in one package.
So like that 1 year in Japan kind of changed your life.
Yeah. That was the switch. And it's funny because I took Japanese. So I was interested in the Japanese language, but I was actually torn between French and Japanese. So like my life could have been completely different had I gone with French. But the French classes were full. It was something that there was a reason why I couldn't take it, and I don't remember the reason exactly, but I couldn't take the French classes, so I went with Japanese instead.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's incredible.
So hold on, one decision.
And that 1 year in Nagasaki, like what made you want to come back to Japan again? Like you said, when you were there, you're like, hey, I got it back.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the culture, the people. I think I was. I think it was a lot of different things. I know one of the biggest things is I wanted to improve my Japanese because I made a lot of Japanese friends. So being closer to them would be nice. I started getting pretty good at my Japanese. Like I wasn't like great or anything, but good enough where I can have conversations with people. I could at least talk to strangers. And then, and when I went back to the States, I was like, my Japanese is going down. So I want to be able to like kind of get much better at it. That was one reason. Another reason was just like I said, the people, right? I felt really safe in Japan. Even though I was a foreigner, I felt that I was kind of, what's it called? I stood out, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess that was like one thing that I wasn't really too much a fan of, but I feel like I stand out anyways in America because I'm Hispanic. So like, it's like whatever, I'm going to stand out no matter where I'm at. So I was like, that's not too big of a deal. But people were really nice to me, right? I never felt discriminated against, right? Mm-hmm. I always felt safe at night. I feel like there's a lot more things to do. Public transportation, I love that. Mm-hmm. And the food.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of little things, right?
So I think this time around, mm-hmm. I guess this is your second time in Japan.
Yes.
Did you have any trouble or facing challenges when you moved here? in terms of housing, in terms of getting used to the culture?
Not the culture, because I feel like I already knew what to expect for the most part. Maybe moving into housing was a little bit difficult because it was kind of hard to find a place that I wanted. Like I had like a checklist of things that I wanted, but it wasn't really realistic because I wasn't currently living in Japan. I guess a lot of real estate people or whatever, they didn't want to, place people into an apartment if they were overseas.
Yep.
Right? So it was a lot of those like kind of challenges. So I ended up going with somewhere a little bit cheaper, or not cheaper, but the cheaper move-in fees or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and my goal is to eventually, for my next place that I move into, be somewhere where I can hit all the check boxes that I want. But currently, it's not too bad. I want to be closer to the city for sure. But
can you talk about the job search process you went through to find a job in Tokyo while you were living in Washington?
Obviously I saw a lot of companies, but there was only a few that I really was interested in, and Restar was actually on the top of the list.
So in terms of like how you decide like which ones you're actually interested in, like what was the huge draw for you let's say Restar and some of the other people on your, or other companies on your list?
So for me, it's kind of what do I want to work with? What do I want to work in the field, right? There was one, I forgot the name of the company, but it was like something to do with like English stuff, right? Like just being able to teach English. I like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Something I can like, I guess, get behind. When I was like reading up data or about Restar or whatever, it was really fresh. It was hard to find a lot of stuff to read about it.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the big points was like they accumulate a lot of real estate data.
Mm-hmm.
They, gather it in one place, and then they kind of present it. And that's something I really like, is kind of accumulating data and then packaging it all up in one place, and either displaying it with like a nice UI or front end, or
mm-hmm.
just have it all accumulated together.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of idea. And that's what really drew me in.
Nice. So it sounds like for you, the most important things were like kind of like, say, domain, like either English language or investing.
Mm-hmm.
And then also like, I guess, product, or like what kind
mm-hmm.
of like technology they're using and what kind of product that they're designing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah, because I don't want to work in something I don't really believe in, or, have no interest in.
So I guess knowing what you know now, like, would you have done anything differently in terms of how you went about looking for the companies, how you went about interviewing at the companies, how you ended up deciding on the companies? Like, what I'm trying to get at is, do you have any advice for people that are going through the same process?
For me, it's just apply to the companies that you are interested in, I guess. Don't just, shotgun it, right?
Yeah.
And, try to like make something out of something you're not really interested in, either is because of like for the money or whatever. You just a good answer.
Yeah. Some people say it's like a numbers game. You like apply to every single one and then see which one gives you the best like salary. Like, that's like that's a way of thinking about it. You're, I guess, saying you should probably be a little slightly more selective.
Yeah.
What do you think you did right in the job search, interview, and like company choosing process?
I think the most important thing was that I just went and applied, right? I think I know a lot of people that at least I guess more junior level people get really nervous about applying for jobs because they think, oh, I'm not good enough, or I still have like a million things to learn, right? And I felt the same way too, but I was like, I felt like I've learned everything I can in my current job. And I can stay here for another like 5 years, right? But I don't think there's much for me to expand or learn on. So I just went and applied, right? That's the one thing. Study the company, right? That's what I did. Study the company beforehand. Try to do lead code problems, I guess, which wasn't really relevant for this position. But that is really important. And I guess just do research. I guess that's probably the number one thing. Yeah. Research.
Did you have to do a bunch of leak code stuff? I know at Restart there isn't so much like leak code and like interviews, but the other interviews that you did in the, I guess, Japanese tech market, like, were they mostly leak code?
From the ones in my experience, yes, they had some lead code stuff. It was either lead code or like build like a take home test kind of thing, but like either like build like an application or something like that, like very like structured or stuff. And I know for some of them, I didn't do so good because I think they were looking for like much more experience, and I just wasn't able to bring that to the table.
Like in a specific technology or something?
Yeah. I remember one actually had me use Svelte, I think it was. And I never did. I never used it. I never even heard of it before that, actually. Yeah. So
can you talk a little bit about if you have any advice for people looking for work in Tokyo or at Restar? Like how should they go about the interview process here?
Be respectful. I
Be
guess.
respectful. Okay.
I think it's the same idea as like other interview processes. I guess it's just the same rules apply. Be respectful. Kind of know who you're being interviewed by, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, be well prepared.
Okay. So I guess what do you do at Restar? Can you tell me a little bit about your current role and responsibilities?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm a web application engineer. So I do. I'm in the front end and the back end. So for the most part, I don't touch too much of the back end. It's funny because I'm actually working on the back end a little bit right now. But for the most part, I do a lot of UI, UX stuff, right? I get tasks that it's like, oh, we want to update this, we want to update that. And they give it to me. Because of my junior level status, I haven't done anything too heavy. But I know they have plans on giving me just different kind of tasks to strengthen my skills as a developer, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I search for a lot of bugs, fix them myself. Just stuff like that, right? I guess more like on the smaller tasks smaller tasks.
I feel like I learned how to do back-end stuff at Restar.
Right.
And I thought everyone was like super supportive, and I learned a lot in like 2 years, like a lot. How have you found the team here at Restar?
Very supportive. I can agree with that one. Yeah, I think I was really worried because in my previous job, it was like every man for themselves, right? And it's kind of like if you had a question, they just kind of like looked at you like you're dumb. Like,
really?
Yeah, like don't ask that kind of stuff. Like it's like, but I genuinely don't know. Like here, it's like I asked a question. I remember I think it was my very first task. I solved like 90% of it, and I was stuck in this one part. And Yokota-san actually, I asked him for help. I was like, hey, like stuck on this. I tried, X, Y, and Z, and I was expecting to get like chewed up or whatever. No, he just took me by the side. We did some. He shared his screen, kind of trying to figure out what exactly I was trying to do, and he solved it in like 10 minutes. And he was like, "Oh yeah, just do this and that," and then like he sent me like a link or something as to what he did, so I can use that in the future. And it came in handy because like a month later or whatever, I used that exact same link to help me with a different problem. So it's like the idea that they want you to grow, right? They want to teach you the right, or they want to give you materials so you can study and grow as a developer, right?
Yeah. Do you want to give a shout out to some of your coworkers? Like, anybody come to mind that has been particularly supportive or awesome?
It's hard to choose just one, man. It's hard to choose. I don't want to do this to
Good answer. Good answer. Yeah. So apart from being supportive, let's say, like, how would you describe Restar's culture or team dynamic?
Very collaborative. So yeah, we work. It's like everyone has an opinion, right? And we all share it, which I think is really nice. Again, drawing from my previous experience, there was just one opinion, and that was our boss's opinion, and that's just you just had to go with it. Right here, it was strange when like I got here and like somebody says something and then everyone else gives their own opinion, and it was like, wait a minute, like you can actually like throw in our ideas. So, like that's kind of nice. So I like that.
Oh, we're a team?
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing, right?
Yeah. I always knew that those kinds of companies existed. Like it's like, hey, I'm the boss. Like you do what I say. Kind of cultures. This is like the first time I'm hearing about it in person, like for real. So that's interesting. Now, I think one of the things that's interesting about Restar is that the product isn't Japanese.
Yeah.
And the clients are Japanese. Japanese companies, big enterprise SaaS, but the engineers mostly all are like native English speakers, or they're not native Japanese speakers.
Right.
How have you found working on a Japanese product? Like, do you have trouble with the language, or how does Restar make sure that you guys can be productive in like a Japanese product?
So for me, it's not too bad because a lot of the code base is still in English. So I guess maybe it's like when it comes to the UI and stuff, can be a little bit tricky because one thing that comes to mind is finding typos. I can't find typos because it's all in Japanese. Yeah. I would know what's wrong or not. But my best friend is Google Translate. Just copy anything I don't understand when I'm reading it. I just copy it and paste it, and I just do that a million times, and then I start to memorize some words or whatever. So I just do that. As far as when we're tasked to like write something new, I usually get my whatever text I need to like write down from a native Japanese speaker, which is Megumi-san. Yep. And I just copy pretty much just word for word whatever she sends me, and I just plug it into the UI and stuff. And because I can read a little bit Japanese, I'm able to kind of follow along a little bit. But even the communication with her is in English for the most part.
Yeah. I think I think they do a great job. I mean, I'm not being interviewed, so all right, never mind. I'll forget about that. So can we talk a little bit? Oh shoot. Thank you. Can we talk a little bit about I guess a little bit more about team culture? So what kind of engineers do well at Restar? Like, I know like every culture has values, right? Mm-hmm. In your point of view, who does well here?
So go-getters, I think if you're just someone that just kind of sits around and kind of expects work to be handed to you, I don't think you're going to survive. I think for me, like what I do is I just, whenever I get done with all my tasks, instead of just asking for more work, which is funny, which is what I would have done in my previous job, I just go out, I find bugs, or I find anything that looks like I can refactor, and I'll refactor it. So it's just keeping yourself busy, knowing what to prioritize, I guess, is a thing.
Okay. So if somebody is thinking about working at Restar, right, and like they're a go-getter and that they're all these things, but like what kind of engineers don't do well at Restar?
The opposite of what I just said.
Well, thank you. Yes. Apparently the opposite of go-getting. So the not go-getters don't do well at Restar.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess people that always try to find like hackish solutions, right? Like if you just try to like hack away at everything, like you're not going. I mean, one, you won't make it through the code reviews. Right? I don't know if you want to keep that in, but like
please, let's talk about it.
Yeah, like because like we want really like good efficient code, right? And so if you're just someone that likes to put something that's really hacky together and just put it up with duct tape and whatever, it's not gonna fly, right? You're not gonna enjoy the comments that you will see on your PRs and stuff, right? I guess that's one. I don't know what else.
No, I mean, it's a great answer. I think so. You talked about no hack your solutions, and the code reviews are pretty, I guess, strict.
Yeah.
From my recollection and from your answer. Do you enjoy those strict code reviews?
I think so. In the moment, sometimes I'm like, why? Like, I just let me push it. But once it gets, once the conversation happens, once it gets pushed, you realize that there's a reason for it, right? And it's all because everyone wants the platform to be the best that it can be, right? And I think once you consider, once you come in from that train of thought, you realize that it's better for the product, right? It's better for the company. So it's not really a bother when you think about it like that.
In terms of like books or resources that you use to improve your technical skills, like even throughout your career, even in university or whatever, do you have any books or resources you can recommend?
No, but it's funny because I was actually having a conversation with Nas and Jansan about books and stuff, and they actually recommended me a couple of different books. I know one that was recommended is something that's already on my list, which is Clean Code. I forget the author. I do want to read that. And then there was another one that Nas recommended, but I forgot the name of the title. But it had something to do with like the architecture of pretty much building like web applications and stuff like that. So since that was recommended to me, I guess I would recommend that to others. But personally, I haven't read too many.
Okay. Would you have any advice? So this is the last question, but would you have any like advice or any lessons that you've learned throughout your career career that you want to share?
Don't take PRs personally. I think that's funny because I learned that on my previous job actually. Because I remember like the first, like one of my very first PRs was just, my first time like throwing code out there. I felt like every line was just being like torn apart, right? I guess that's one lesson. Is just, the code that you write isn't really who you are, right? It's just something that you made. Sometimes it's just, the reason not to take it personally might be just because the person that's reviewing your code might just have a different idea of what's more correct than what you might think is more correct, right? So that underlying principle.
Yeah.
But
I think that's right. I mean, like one person can't really know everything, right? And there's a lot of like complexity in the code base or in any code base. So thank you for the piece of advice. This has been Luis
Yes,
Torres.
sir.
Thank you for coming on.